This is Nursing Uncensored. Your host, Adrianne Benning, invites you to listen in on real conversations about all things in the nursing world. This podcast is intended for nurses, nursing students, and allied health professionals, but non-medical folk will probably get a kick out of us too. If you like what you hear, subscribe and share. Welcome to Nursing Uncensored. This is Adrianne. You are back for another episode, and today is the big reveal. So I have Jillian with me here today, but Jillian is not yet going to tell you the result of her NCLEX. First, before you say anything, Jillian, I have to say everybody is dying to know what happened, and I've even gotten some emails of people being like, well, are you going to tell us or what? We've been waiting. So I'm finally giving them what they want, even though we're so many weeks out. So first, before we do anything else, hello. Hi.
Hi, how are you today?
I am good. You look like you're cozy and comfy.
I've got my Christmas jammies on. It is my day off.
That's awesome.
The house smells like 12 different scents of candles. It's overall been a very good day.
This sounds great. I am in a really big cozy sweater. I've got 3 candles burning in front of me, and they're not just regular candles. They're like the super holiday-rific crackling wick candle. So It sounds to me like a crackling fire. My boyfriend was making fun of them, so they're all in my office now. So that's all right. You don't know. Not everybody has to be into everything I'm into, but yes, I have 3 candles burning. It's very like winter hygge in here, very cozy. So I'm glad that you're comfy too, because we're gonna kind of nestle in and talk about some things here today. So last time we talked to you, you were a couple days away from NCLEX. So like, take us back, like Wayne's World style. You've seen Wayne's World, right? You're not too young for Wayne's World. Okay, so you know the like. Okay, so we're going back to NCLEX day.
Get back to there we go. All the stress is coming back.
Oh no, leave the stress. It's like the Ghost of Christmas Past, where you're like there, you can see what's going on, but it can't get you. It can't get you. So take us back there.
It's funny stress now. So I was driving in to take my boards, and I walked into the testing facility. I had done my research about what to wear and like how early to show up, everything. Now, of course, the one thing I forgot was how big the hair ties needed to be. So I wore an entire area rug scrunchie around my hair. So I get in, and naturally she goes, this is like just a bit too big for you, needless to say. So I'm using an office rubber band in my hair. A quarter of my hair is being ripped out. And I'm like, all right, hopefully this will just be a really sweet reward. So I take boards, get out. My friends haven't gotten done yet. And then I get to the car, and as I'm walking out, I'm like, okay, I think I did good. And then I sat in the car, and I did what probably everybody else did. I started thinking, oh no, well, maybe I got this one wrong. And then I don't know why I picked this, and why was I getting so much of this? I'm like, I don't remember anything. I'm going to have to sell vacuums. So driving home, super stressed out, called my dad. I got home, and I ended up just sleeping because I couldn't do anything else. I tried to stay awake, and then I just got really like sweaty and clammy and overstimulated. So I took a nice long nap, went to work the next day, and I was actually at work talking to people about everything that happened and how everything went. And then I found out that I passed. I am real nurse Jillian now.
Jillian RN. You are a real nurse. Well, registered nurse, but it can be real nurse. You can be a real nurse.
Yeah, I think it's like dual, it's really the R is just whatever you feel like on that day.
Righteous. Renegade.
Oh, renegade. I like that.
I'm trying to think of other R words. Suddenly I can't think of any other R words. Doesn't matter. You're a nurse. Welcome to the world of nursing.
Yeah, I wrote it down on this whiteboard by my front door, and I look at it every time that I go to work now, and it still feels very surreal, and I'm so spoiled with happiness. And
I remember getting the text message from you, and I had every confidence. But also, we all walk into it with a healthy sense of skepticism because you're only expected to know 8 trillion things for this exam pool of thousands of questions. So, one thing that I do want to reiterate, because we had talked about this a bit before today, you went to one of the resources that you used to find test day information was actually the Pearson VUE website, right? Is that what it was?
Yes, I think if you just Google Pearson VUE NCLEX, or I can't remember what the exact terminology I used. Actually, I can send you the link when we're done with this, and you can throw it in.
I'll include it. But truth be told, if people are about ready to take their NCLEX, they should be able to fucking Google it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. So I'll put that link in the bio. But you were saying that it had really great information about what you can and cannot wear.
Oh yeah.
What to do if you suddenly have explosive diarrhea in the middle of the test. Well, no, not like that. But what to do if you have to get up during the middle of the test, what the security is, yeah. So basically I tell people, dress for it like you're dressing to go to have a massage, a hoodie, a bra optional, but just be comfortable. Don't wear a lot of jewelry. Don't wear a whole bunch of shit in your hair, earrings. Take it all out. Leave it in the car. Just take your key in, for your car. Leave right. All this sounds right.
I'm going to be honest with you. The best outfit that I wore, and that I actually saw 3 others. So for me, I wore a crew neck sweatshirt with no pockets. And then I wore a pair of leggings and a pair of moccasins. And I didn't have any pockets. I had nothing.
You're you see everything. There's nothing else.
Literally everything. They were thin leggings. So I had nothing that I could possibly hide. Aside from the scrunchie, it was a seamless transition into the NCLEX room to test. And then for the guys, they just wore t-shirts or long sleeve shirts, and then a pair of sweatpants without pockets too, and some tennis shoes, and they were set.
Yeah. Really just keep it simple, because if you have a bunch of pockets, they're going to make you turn your pockets inside out. It's a whole thing. So keep it simple. Keep it simple. So did you find that the advice that I gave you was helpful? Because I was the one that was 24 hours before. It's rest and relaxation. There ain't no cramming for the NCLEX.
No, I think it definitely helped. I also think completely disconnecting and keeping my day completely busy helped tremendously. If you can find something constructive and beneficial to fill your day with before you take boards, it makes all the difference in the world. And I don't think I took any sleep aids that night, just because I was afraid of waking up and feeling kind of groggy. But I made sure to get a good night's sleep, wore a sleep mask, shut my doors, set my 3 alarms. But I was so nervous, I woke up on the first one.
Yeah.
I mean, you sleep good, but you wake up earlier than normal and just can't go back to sleep.
Right.
And just a lot of self-care. And I definitely noticed there was a big difference in how me and the people that didn't study the day of walked in, and the people that were studying in their car, because they went in and were, clearly we were all nervous, but theirs was heightened nervous because they were looking probably through things they didn't know. So your advice, and then my advice that I'm riding the coattails of from you, is just don't touch anything, because you telling me that helped eons.
Yeah, because I feel what happens is you're already stressed, so you're not in an optimal state to learn anything meaningfully and retain it. Test strategy is going to get you further than trying to memorize those last bits of patho that you haven't memorized in the last 2 to 4 years that you've been in school. And then also it puts you in this state of your brain is just cycling through information. It's the click, 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 and you're not focused. You're kind of all over the place. You're trying to cram in as much. Everybody knows how they feel after cramming. It's the same as binge eating. You're full, but you don't feel it's not a good kind of full. It's not satiated. It's just stuffed.
Yeah. And when you get done taking boards mentally, you feel like you've run a marathon. I mean, why would you want to run a marathon the day before you run a marathon?
Right. Exactly.
I mean, you're not setting yourself up for anything good.
Exactly. So did you eat before you went in to take the test?
Yeah, I was actually smart. Thank you, Jillian, who for once pre-planned. I got oatmeal already, set it on the counter, and then all I had to do was put hot water in it, threw some peanut butter in there, and I actually wasn't hungry the whole time. I was
good.
I had
you got some protein, you got some complex grains in there. Good job.
And I drank tea and not the black as night tar consistency coffee that I normally drink, which probably helped a lot.
Yeah. Cool. So then I remember that you took the exam, and much like everyone else who finds out that they actually passed and that they've completed that hurdle, whether it's the first time or the second time or whatever, you're passed. So once you pass, this wave of elation, because you go from the stressed, studying, focused, got this big thing ahead of you. And then when it's over, it's it's over. That part is done, right?
Yeah, I felt like, now what? Because I was so used to, running towards something, and then you get it, and then there's this nice little window of time where you have nothing that you're running to quite yet because your job hasn't started. You don't have orientation, but you don't have boards anymore. And so you can just live. And
you can rediscover your humanity and your friends and your family.
Yeah, it was glorious. It was so nice. And I think I had, was it 3 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. It was the perfect amount of time, enough time that I got back to a good, level of functioning where I felt productive and replenished and nourished, but also not too much time where I felt like I was twiddling my thumbs.
Yeah, you get bored. You feel like you're waiting for the next thing to happen and it's not quite coming yet. So what kinds of things did you do? What kinds of these joyous, nourishing things? I mean, I know you spent time with people that you really care about because you've got kind of a tight social circle. So that's always nice.
Yeah, I did that. I had a whole notepad list of books going the entire way through nursing school about books that I should read. So I read books and I spent time with my cats. They were super appreciative. And what did I do? I cleaned my house. I went to go see movies. I called my grandma, who lives 8 hours away, who I hadn't talked to in forever because I never had the time. And what else did I do? I went to a Bad Hair concert with my dad. It was just at a dive bar. It was the most fun I've had in so long, and then regretted it the next morning because I'm not 21 and spry anymore. But it was so great. And, then the time came around to go back to real life, and it just tied a nice little bow on everything.
So you essentially had a job lined up as you were working as a nursing assistant, because some employers, and it varies from institution to institution, but some people will hire you pending your license. So they'll set a future start date, which gives you ample time to get your license and submit it to your employer. And they'll kind of hold the job for a little bit. And they were kind enough to hold the job for you because, as people who've listened to the first couple episodes with you know, you did have to retake a class. No shame in that game. Your license hangs on the same paper that mine does. So, shit happens though. And so you did have this kind of little change. And so, where was I going with this? So so you've got the job lined up, and then you had I remember you texted me and you were like, what do I do about scrubs? And I was like, oh bitch, we got to talk. And, I think that this is valuable, thing to talk about because you were talking about there's this bliss period of a few weeks, after NCLEX, before the job starts, before the stress of being in a new place and a new role and learning and all this information being shoved at you. So then you get these joyous things of buying scrubs, because we wear a uniform, so we have to have the right colors. But within that, as long as the color's right, you can mess with styles and fabrics and brands and shoes. And I saw you got new shoes. I saw you got some new shoes.
I got new shoes, and the lower half of my body is just opera singing every time I go into work because it doesn't hurt anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's all these exciting things.
Yeah. Go try on shoes in that time between boards and starting work, because it can be tough depending on what kind of feet you have. I have funky small feet, so it was definitely a whole day excursion.
And I know that some people, I got my first scrubs for work were kind of like the shitty discount scrubs, because I'm like, at that point hadn't gotten a paycheck yet. Like, you got to show up in scrubs for orientation before they pay you. So I bought just like a couple sets. I think I went to Walmart and I bought like those. Actually, the Walmart women's black scrub pants ain't bad. They're not too bad.
No, not at all.
It's like $20 for a pair. You can't really go wrong. So I started out with those. Some people don't give a shit. They're like, I'm going to get blood and piss and who knows what on these scrubs, so I don't care. Other people like me, I'm kind of like in the middle. I want to look nice, but I don't want to like spend $60 on like a mandarin collar silk scrub top. But everybody kind of runs that range. So there's no shame, listeners listening. If you can't upgrade yet, it's okay. It's okay. You'll get there. I had hand-me-down stuff too. Like, I am lucky enough that like 3 of the 5 pairs of Danskos that I have were just like given to me by someone who bought them and found that they just didn't quite fit right. So yeah. So you had a job lined up, and then I rambled there for a while.
You know what? It's fine. Yeah, I had the job lined up, which added more stress taking boards, and then ended up being very comforting after I found out I passed, because then there were other people who didn't go to an institution where they were pre-hired. So then they were figuring out where they wanted to work, going through interviews. Thankfully, I was not having to deal with that. So it was nice. And then,
at what point did you interview, if I may ask?
No, you're fine. So since I was supposed to start in July, I interviewed in March. So I had my job.
Nice.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I had my job since March. So yeah. So what was that? April, May, June, July, August, September, October. 8 months. Yeah, it's fine. Better late than never.
Yeah. So now you've started. So our institution does a mixture, like orientation starts out in like a classroom setting, various auditoriums around the facility. And then they start like splatting in time on the floor. And then more and more of it becomes time on the floor. Is that right?
Yeah, my first week was just all classroom, very generic things like, welcome to the building. We're glad you're here. Let's get your payroll set up, take you through like computer training.
Here's how you get into your email. Yeah.
Yes. And luckily for me, I could just work on like my institution compliances because I was a previous employee. But if you weren't a previous employee, that's really what the first week would entail. And then the following couple weeks, I had like division orientation. And then I actually shadowed with our charge nurse for half a day. And then I shadowed on rounds another day for half a day, which is very helpful. And even if it's not built into like your institution's orientation or your unit's orientation, I highly suggest doing it. I think it unloaded so much anxiety, and I think it really got me familiar with the unit, got me familiar with the doctors that I'd be working with, how my charge operates, because every role is different in every unit, every institution. And also, if you're rounding and checking in on people, you're unofficially getting introduced wherever you go. So you're not just new guy sitting in the report room. I was only new guy sitting in the report room being quiet in the corner for one day. Then when I started rounding, I started to get familiar with people. And then when I walked into work, I at least had somebody's face to smile to and comfort me. And I'm like, oh, hey, I know you. I don't feel so new anymore. So I think it really helps. The more floor time that you can get, or the more shadowing time in various roles, I think the less anxiety that you're going to end up having, because to say that you're not going to be nervous for your first nursing job is unrealistic, because I was so nervous but excited. but I think it heightens the excitement and brings down the nerves.
And that's true. Even if you, like, I was a nursing assistant on the same unit where I got hired as a nurse. And it doesn't matter that, I mean, it absolutely helped that I already knew people on the floor. But I guess the point that I'm making is that I still felt nervous as hell on that first day on the floor as a nurse, because it's a whole different set of tasks. I almost, in those first few weeks, was almost longing for going back to being a nursing assistant, just because I felt like I needed those moments of like, I can't be the decision maker right now. Like, I don't know what to do. Can I just go empty a Foley right now, please? So
Can I please go stock your drawers? Because I know how to do that.
Yeah. So those moments did arrive. I want to talk about some of the hard stuff first, because I want to end on a positive note. So we've kind of already talked about how we're going to be nervous no matter what, even if you already know the unit. It helps to get, because in those days that you're rounding and like shadowing and stuff, you're also kind of building rapport with people, like showing them that you're not an asshole and that you're willing to learn and that you're, friendly and all of that stuff you got to do when you're the new kid in school. Let's talk a little bit about some challenges that you faced, because you are working in a level 1 trauma center in a medical ICU.
Yes.
And it's kind of like we were talking about when you and I were talking the other day, like I've been a nurse for 3 years and you are presently, as a brand new nurse, are learning things that are even outside of my scope of practice, that are things that I haven't even learned to do yet and scare me even. Like, for example, like I don't deal with sedation. We're not doing codes left and right because that's what happens when you have really unstable patients. You're doing a lot of shit that makes me kind of nervous. So it's a big deal. It's a big role. Can you talk a little bit about how that feels?
Yes, I actually have my journal right next to me because I've been writing I've been writing down all of the things that are hard, not only for this, but so that I can start to check things off my list of, like, it's almost like a competency sheet of like, okay, I've done this before, check it off the list. And then I can go back again and be like, okay, I know how to do this. It's varying degrees. I think the hardest things are, one, no matter what floor you go on, you'd have this. Being able to make decisions and having your own nursing license is very, very hard to wrap your head around, because your whole time through clinicals, you're used to operating under somebody else's nursing license. So you're used to asking somebody else before you do anything. Now it's exciting, fun, rewarding, and also frightening and strange that I can go in and titrate my own patients' Levophed like they're norepinephrine. Like, I have the potential to, skyrocket their blood pressures, but I signed up for this. This is now in my scope of practice. I can do this. So it's very hard to grow in my own role, because I keep having to remind myself of my role now. That it's not just me. You're never alone, but it's just my license now. And I have a preceptor, but my preceptor, I want to be more behind me, supporting me and nudging me when I need it, not really holding my hand and carrying me, because then I'm not getting the most use out of my preceptorship time.
Right. But that is scary.
It is. And like learning all of the drugs, even the categories of drugs, the ones that I had gotten used to in my previous institution where I was a nursing assistant, and even the ones we learned in school, they use different ones at our institution. So getting used to, okay, well, we use paralytics, but they use a different one than I've ever been used to. And our sedation practices are very different. Learning all the protocols is very different, because I almost feel like we're cowboys compared to everybody else, because there's clear-cut boundaries for other departments or other floors. But with us, it's kind of more up to our discretion, which again is very empowering, and I'm very grateful that I have that. But it's also very scary, because I can either do a lot of good or do a lot of harm. And then being new in a big, big place with a lot of people and a lot of unstable patients. I mean, I think if I didn't have any fear, I wouldn't be right for this job, but I walk into work every day and I'm afraid of what my day is going to hold because I don't know if I'm going to get two relatively stable critical care patients who, I can plan their day out. I can pretty much know what's going to happen, and they might have one or two changes, but I could maybe anticipate them. Or I could end up having just one patient who's maybe like on continuous dialysis, but could end up crumping on me at any given time. I mean, I just don't know. It's very hard to not know what my day is going to hold, but I also really like it because I hate routine and I kind of want to do my own thing. And
that's one of the reasons that as a new nurse on an intermediate unit, I would show up to work so damn early because the anxiety of not knowing what my assignment was going to be was killing me. And so I wanted to go and I wanted to have time to I think I just got a delivery. My dog is barking and I heard the doorbell ring. Basically knowing that, that totally blew my train of thought. Oh yeah. You don't know. Are you going to get a bunch of walkie-talkie? Well, you're not going to get walkie-talkies ever in ICU. But for me, it's am I getting a walkie-talkie? Am I getting somebody that is going to be in MICU by ICU by 9:30? I have no idea. And so for me, getting to work and being able to mentally prepare myself, even if it was going to be a really hard night, to then really hunker down and say, okay, this is what I have to do to get through this shit. And I'm going to figure out what my resources are. Now that, I'm a little more comfortable on my unit, I don't need that buffer time. I don't need that mental, because I know, I might get an assignment that sucks, but I at least know when there's a problem and when to, for example, I can call a rapid response if I have a patient going to shit. In the ICU, you guys are the rapid response. You don't call the code team to come save your ass because you guys are the code team. So that's scary.
It is. And our codes operate so much differently than everybody else's. I mean, it's a whole different world. And I mean, I think too, you have been a nurse long enough that you have your day-to-day routine. And it's difficult for me because I'm still trying to establish my, I have my apartment to unit routine. I mean, I know what I eat, how much I eat, where I drive, when I park, blah, blah, blah. But going in and after getting report, I mean, how long do I take to look up my patients? How many hours ahead do I plan out meds? Who do I go see first? And, how much do I clump at one time? What things can wait? I'm still trying to establish that because I don't have a prior routine. And every day I kind of feel like I'm winging it, but it's also getting a little easier every day. And, and if anybody's listening that does decide to, for some reason, jump off the cliff and go to a level 1 as a new grad and be completely new, I think dealing with conflicting personalities can also be very difficult. I think me personally, I'm trying to think of how to word this. It's very humbling walking into work and having so many disease processes and medications and protocols and procedures and all of these things that I know nothing about. I mean, I know in my heart that I'm not lacking in knowledge. I mean, I'm not a dumb person, but it's a very humbling experience to realize, I'm smart enough to pass boards, but 50 doors have now opened full of information that I have not previously been exposed to. And I think just balancing trying to think here,
that's okay.
Being okay with not knowing everything, but also knowing in my heart that I'm going to get there. And I mean, my employers saw me as an investment because I'm new, I'm green, I am a piece of clay straight out of, your pottery shop that they can mold into what they want. But I also need to look at myself as an investment and look at what I am now, but also look at who I know I'm going to end up to be. So even when I have bad days, still being able to look in the mirror and say, I am qualified for this job. I was hired to do this job. Somebody had faith in me. Somebody still has faith in me because I am still here. I went through 12 hours. I did not kill my patients. I did not make medication errors. I am smart and I will get there. It's a lot of pep talks and positive self-talk. And, if somebody does say something negative, or if something happens with my patient that I didn't anticipate and maybe somebody else did, just knowing that it's not a reflection on me and this is all a learning experience and I don't have to know everything on day one. I think,
right.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us going into like critical care or like an intermediate or the emergency department, we all can be very type A. And I know I've been type A for a long time, just I mean, at least I'm owning up to it now, but we set these high expectations for ourselves because we know that we're taking care of humans. So we want to be the best version of ourselves we can be. And I set such high goals for myself. And like, I got to remember that just because I failed one day doesn't mean that I fail as a nurse. And it doesn't mean that I'm not right for this. And it doesn't mean I'm not going to be good at this. But like you told me, I mean, I am a child nurse. And just like you told me too, just because I walked the first time and fell doesn't mean I just give up on it. You just...
Right. This is difficult. And, you also, the journal is what helped me the most because I had a more tangible, like I can go in now and look at pages I wrote, things that I was terrified to do that now I do, like blood draws. At one point, drawing people's blood in the middle of the night seemed like one of the worst things you could have asked me to do. And now I'm like, shit, I have to do all my patients' blood because phlebotomy is not coming. That sucks. And then I go and I get them all, So it's nice to be able to have something. And I'm not saying that everybody has to keep a journal. I personally think that new grads should keep some kind of notebook, notepad. It doesn't have to be like a Dear Diary situation. I've talked about it on the blog, my sentence journal. I literally just have things where I just like write a sentence or two. Hey, this kicked my ass today. Hey, because then you do reach that point where like I think we also talked about how the competency happens in bits and pieces. Like you don't just wake up one day and go, I'm a seasoned nurse today. Like, no, it happens that, you catch yourself making a call that you are later really proud of because maybe somebody else wouldn't have noticed that. Or, you do get all your blood draws or you get that IV in the left breast because they have no other vasculature that you can find in their body. Yep. Like you have those victories. And then you have those days where like someone who you look up to as a nurse comes to you and asks your opinion. And then you have that imposter syndrome all over again of like, you don't know and you're asking me. Like the first time I had like a tenured nurse on the unit I work on say like, hey, what do you think about this? And I was like, I think that I can't believe you're asking me. But here's the answer that I have for you.
Look around, you're like, are you talking to the guy behind me?
Yeah, like me or like I thought somebody else came into the med room while I wasn't looking. No, those things happen in little bits and pieces, and you have to celebrate those as much as you have to celebrate like any other milestone in your life. Like they're little victories and sometimes you don't get to celebrate, but like Nurse Blake just put up a video recently called like the perfect IV or something like that. Yeah. Have you seen it where he's going around going, I just put in this like textbook, like left AC 20 gauge. And you're like, dude, yes, all the rest of us are like, good job. But it's true. That first time you do it and you're like, I didn't have to have any help. I wasn't scared. I just popped that bitch right in. Those days are great days.
The first code that we had on the unit where my heart only mildly increased in rate, I celebrated because I wasn't panicked and I didn't start sweating and I was just adrenaline rush because of the situation, but everybody is. And then the first time that I got complimented by a seasoned nurse and our physician by my chest, like on my chest compressions, I celebrated hard in my car. There was a lot of blizzard that night. I am not kidding. It is celebrating those little victories because it helps a ton. And it boosts your self-esteem too. Because, I mean, we're new. We're babies. We don't know anything. I mean, we just learned where the pooping bathroom was as well as the standard bathroom.
Because there's every unit has the sit and stay and the quick cycle through.
Yeah, don't be the guy that uses the wrong bathroom. Yes.
No, find out. Yeah.
You're going to become the new guy, but in the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely some struggles. Every job is going to have them, whether you're working like an ICU job, a clinic job, school nurse, whatever your job is. There are going to be those days that you go, oh shit. And you get through those, it's like, it's what I always say to pep myself up. The good thing about bad shifts is they always come to an end. There is no 24-hour shift, at least not for nurses, that floor nurses. Doctors, I don't know about you guys. I don't know how you do the 24-hour on-call bullshit, or like paramedics or any of those hardcore motherfuckers that are doing but for the purpose of what we're talking about,
yes,
even if you have a horrid day, you do get to go home. And even when I have bad days and I know I have to come back the next night or whatever, I try not to think about that shit till it's happening. Like when I go home from work, the only thing I'm focused on are the few hours ahead of me when I'm going to peel off my dirty ass scrubs, scrub away the last 12 hours and like crawl into bed. Like those are the things that I focus on as like I'm getting close to the end of my shift, when I'm like, I can't fucking be here anymore.
Yeah.
And you just have to focus on those next things that are coming that are good. So, all right. So we've got the struggles out of the way.
Yes.
Now I want to hear you gush about all the shit that's either better than you expected or just as good as you expected, right down to the fucking scrub pants you've been bragging about.
First of all, I'm going to start with my scrub pants. I am absolutely positively in love with these scrubs. You can't see my thighs, and for the sake of everybody, I'm not going to show them to you, but they are thick. 2 C's. So finding scrub pants that are quiet when I'm trying to run around, long enough for my short legs, but also not too short that they look like high waters and I'm going back to the flood of 2008 is very difficult. And then you have the waistband, number of pockets, whatever. I've finally found the best pair of joggers and the best pair of regular pants. And now life is sweet and I'm just coasting along. And it's so great.
And you had a cute scrub top on the other day. We wear granite gray, which, I complain about wearing gray as a scrub top. But then if you were to like go to this little room behind me and go into my closet, like probably half of it is fucking black and gray anyway. So what am I really complaining about? But yeah, so you got a cute scrub top too. So that's nice. Do you have a stethoscope?
I've had the same stethoscope for a while, and then now I'm finally getting to use it as not a nursing student, and it feels so nice, and I can hear my dead ancestors if I put it up to the sky. It sounds so wonderful, and that could just be me being like super elated because now I'm actually
It's okay.
Yeah. And I walk into work and we have a very long report table because sometimes we're just packed to the gills depending on acuity and who gets singled with patient to nurse. And I finally belong at the table and I don't feel like I'm out of place, and which I wasn't before. I mean, every person in healthcare has their place, but as a student or as a nursing assistant, sometimes you feel like if anybody needs to sit on the floor as opposed to the table at Thanksgiving, you're the person that gets the floor. Well, now you have that little boost of confidence and you're like, you know what? I'm going to take this last chair at the table because I'm a nurse too. And I worked very hard to be here and I belong here.
Amen, sister.
And it feels really good. And it feels really nice to be able to say that. And I have my badge by the front door and it's absolutely insane to look at because then I put it on and I feel like an imposter. And sometimes I check to make sure this is actually mine because it's still very weird that it just is nurse and there's no like assistant after that. I still think it's a dream and somebody's going to slap me awake or like pour cold water on me and this is all going to be a dream. But and I'm like I am able to make my own decisions, which I know I just talked about struggling with that, but it is so nice that if I want something and I walk up to my resident and I say, you know what, I think that this would benefit my patient. Is it okay if we do this? Are you okay with this? And they're like, yeah, go ahead. And I'm like, all right. Like, Look
You're
at
like,
there.
that was a good idea. And I do get to speak up for my patients now. And I don't have to ask my preceptor if I can make that suggestion. Yeah.
Yes.
So that autonomy that comes with it is really great. And correct me if I'm wrong, but in the ICU, you guys do run off of a lot of algorithms because while you have physicians and
Yes.
other care providers at the bedside, like sometimes when your patients are sick and shit's moving fast and they're dying on you, you don't have time to be like, hey, doctor, can I get an order for that? No, you need to know what you're doing in the order. It's like ACLS or anything else. There's a predetermined algorithm. You follow the algorithm and you do it in the appropriate like order and timeliness, right?
Yes. I mean, there's always, like your set things where, this is, I mean, here's how much you can max out on your blood pressure medications. Here's how much you can max on your sedatives. Here's what you can add to this. Like when you can give bolus doses of things versus, when can you decide to just put them on a drip of something? I mean, there's a lot of autonomy, but it's very comforting that one, we are a closed unit. So all of our residents, fellows, staff doctors are in our ICU and they don't really move around. And also the way that our pods are set up, you're never, even if it's not in the same pod, you're never by yourself. So even if you need to be a renegade and you have to stray off that algorithm because of your specific patient's condition, you will always have somebody there to help you and guide you. And chances are everybody's watching every patient, at least on half of the floor. So, I mean, if there's something going wrong with your patient, whether it's my patient or somebody else's, we've all kind of seen it. And we've all kind of like either pulled our patient up on the monitor so we could see their EKG a little closer or made a couple extra rounds to go check in on them. It's definitely a team effort. So,
yeah.
I mean,
because here's the thing, just because your patient isn't my patient doesn't mean that I'm okay with having to code. Like everybody there is there for the good of all of those patients.
Exactly.
So it's not just like, her patient's in VTAC, but whatever, she'll notice. It's not my business. Like, no, like
Exactly.
because if you're coding someone, you're all doing it anyway. And it's tiring and it's exhausting and there's a lot more paperwork and then you have to restock everything. So just don't even get there. Yeah. Make sure that everybody's watching it's the same on, the unit where I work. It's like, okay, well, if your patient's desatting, I'm not just going to sit here and wait for you to notice. Like I'm going to get up and go help that patient. So
exactly. And I mean, we get to either pick our patients or they'll kind of throw us 5 or 6 options of here, I think these would be a good acuity level for you. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we can get in over our head if your suddenly stable person decides to throw you a curveball. But I mean, 9 times out of 10, you don't go in knowingly over your head or working with something above your skill set. But one thing that I'm fortunate that I learned before and that I'm still trying to keep is like, I ask a million questions. I ask questions all the time. Like, is it okay for me to do this? Why are we using this versus this? What if we couple this on with this? Why is this person's, QRS complex widened? Like, I mean, people are teaching me things all the time. I mean, I didn't know that if you were bedridden after a certain number of days, you give one, paralytic aside, instead of another because it widens their QRS complex and like increases their rates for VTAC. Mm-hmm. I had no idea, but now I do. It's a good environment to learn. And it's almost like I'm like collecting little pennies of knowledge in this gigantic piggy bank. And then I just fish one out when I need it because I won't need it for, weeks or months, but I'll be super grateful I have it when the time comes.
Yeah. And they all kind of, sometimes these things all influence each other and work together. When you understand one process, it all builds upon everything else. So especially when you're in like a specialty, like, some places, for example, in our hospital, we have like a cardiac ICU mm-hmm. versus like our surgical ICU is broken down into like, for example, there's a bay or a pod that's like all neuro patients, mm-hmm. Like it's broken down not only by like your division and your specialty, but then sometimes even within the unit. Do you guys have any kind of setup like that where like certain patients have to be in certain parts of the Or is it all just kind of, you can set up anything in any of those rooms?
It's all kind of set up wherever. I mean, the only real constraint that sometimes we have to work with is space. I mean, if there's somebody that's like maybe on continuous dialysis and on ECMO at the same time, we try to find them a bigger room to go into, or, you know, something like that. But a lot of the times, because we get everything that's not neuro or cardio anyway, and even that's not off limits. If those units are full, we'll take their overflow. So we can really put anybody anywhere, but working with everything, I almost think it's better because you keep your mind sharp on every body system, and you don't you don't work with one thing too much that all of your other knowledge on other things kind of
gets fuzzy. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, I'm not like putting it down at all. If you like cardio and you like being balls to the wall all the time, I am proud of you and I look up to you because I couldn't do it. If you are balls to the wall about neuro and you know how to test every 12 cranial nerves every hour, I will give you a round of applause because I couldn't do it. If you asked me about parts of the brain specifically now, I still wouldn't be able to tell you everything.
Right. So there's like this level of learning that happens in nursing school. And it's true what they say, like they teach you the bare minimum to not be a danger to your patients. And then you get onto the unit, and depending on your unit, you have this even bigger kind of climb of information that you need to learn. And now it's not just for the exam, it's for the actual human bodies that you're working on. So there is this level of like massive responsibility, but also like when you see the results of like something you did, like, oh, that patient, we did a little sedation vacation and they seem to be a little bit more clear today, and maybe they can come off the vent today. And like, while you do see a lot of tragedy, you also get to see like, hey, we're transferring you to the floor today because you have escaped death's bony fingers. Like there are these good things that you get to do. And so not only that, but you get to say like there's, even though you're new, you do deserve your seat at the table, but you also get to say to people like, hi, John Doe from my high school that I haven't seen in 20 years. I'm at my class reunion. How are you doing? Oh, you sell insurance? No shame. But I'm an ICU nurse. Like there is that, you do get the bragging rights now of being like, yeah, I'm a critical care nurse. And as you go through your career, you're like, this was another thing I wanted to talk about. So you have not yet, as a new grad, you have not yet gone through advanced cardiac life support, ACLS. And in an ICU, some people would say like, well, how the hell does that work? But it's just like anything else that you wouldn't be good at. If there's a code, you're not pushing meds. Like you can't do those meds yet until you are certified. But that doesn't mean that you can't do every single other role that there is to do in that code. You can still be a compressor, a recorder. Like you can be the person like running the defib if the defib and the meds don't kind of go together in the same role. So like you still have things you can do, but you get to keep leveling up is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Like even me not being ACLS trained, I mean, I think it was the second code that we had. They knew it was me and two other girls. The three of us started together as a nice little trio in MICU together. And all of the nurses obviously knew that we were new and we were untrained in ACLS. And one of the nurses that was drawing up meds was actually really sweet and took me under her wing. And she's like, I know you're not trained, but how about we expose you to this so that you don't have shaky hands the first time you do this yourself? So even though you are not ACLS trained, you find everybody should be good, teachable, loving critical care nurses because they know what it's like. But if not everybody is like that, you find your nice, loving nurse and you scoot under their wing and you say, hey, let me be a sponge. Can you tell me how to do this? Or can you show me? Can I watch you? And even with the nurses who haven't been super receptive to new people or maybe don't have like the same personality as I do, they've never told me no to learning. They've never not let me watch. So even if you don't get certified, you can still use the opportunity to soak things in.
Right.
I mean,
Right. And then you get to continue to grow because it's not, you learn the job, you'll get your ACLS certification down the road, like some nurses do ECMO. I don't even know what other shit there is to be done, like the continuous renal replacement, like all of that stuff. Those are all different skills that you learn. Like you just don't get thrown in and like, oh, today you're running a dialysis machine. Like obviously these are things that come as you kind of level up. So the challenge and the joy of like knowing that like you really do have sky's the limit here. Like I'm curious to check in with you again in like a year or like 2 years and see where you're at and where you're like, oh yeah, that shit that used to make me want to pee my pants, I do it like 100 times a week now. Those things happen, and those are nice things to see and to kind of like have a little record of. So your journal is in that spirit. I'm just going to open my journal to a random page. Here's my journal. It has little skull and crossbones all over it. Let's see if I can show it to you.
Well, because you're a rebel.
Yeah, it's disappearing. Yeah. So let's just see, because I started keeping this 3 years ago, and some of this might be stupid. So let's see. This is not like predetermined. So maybe there's nothing good in here. But I just wrote at the bottom of one page, I'm tired. So tired. So period. So tired. August 15th, my first year as a nurse, my first month as a nurse. First patient we walked in to see was dead. Now we work on a palliative care unit, so sometimes this happens, but like this was like my first month on the job. I'm like, went in to do bedside. This is why you do bedside report, people. Mm-hmm. I wrote, I had a 20-minute lunch. My left foot hurts. A mean patient loved me because I was talking fishing, furniture making, and deadliest catch. See I don't even remember who the hell that was. Oh, I started an IV in a broken arm at the patient's request because they didn't want an IV hanging out of their good arm. Uh-huh. So see, like this is shit that never would have stuck in my memory, but like now I'm giggling because I'm like, oh yeah, I did put an IV in a broken arm once.
Actually, I think the greatest joy of being able to like be a critical care nurse is because I'm dealing with people who are in the absolute worst day of their lives. But the first time that I had a woman that was my age tell me that she was so happy that I sat on the side of the bed and talked with her and made her feel like a human in an inhuman place, I cried with her. And it was probably easily in the top 5 joyous moments that I've
Oh, the feels. You got the feels.
Best moment I've ever had in my entire life. And I would have gone, actually not just with that moment, but with everything so far, including all the bad, I would have gone over nursing school literally twice over if I would have known that this was what was waiting for me on the other side. And I wouldn't have been like, I might cry talking about this because I'm so happy. Like this is everything that I could have wanted, and then adding pounds and pounds and pounds of additional joy because like I'm doing this, and this is like I felt like a kid, like, oh, what I want to do when I grow up, like I want to be a medical ICU nurse. And not only am I a critical care nurse, I'm not at a level 3, like I'm at a level 1. Mm-hmm. Like I can do a lateral transfer to like somewhere bigger, which is insane. And I mean, I feel even smaller. You know those like little tiny minnows that they have at the Walmart fish tanks? You know?
Yeah.
You can like barely see at the bottom and like blends in with the rocks and sediment.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like, but in a huge ocean. But I know that eventually I will grow up into a bigger fish. It's just going to take time.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that you're saying this. This is like good takeaway for this episode is that you can't compare your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 15. And you need to make sure that as you move forward, we talked about this as well off the air on our taco date, that if you're going to compare yourself to other people, let it be for the purpose of getting better and having mentors and having people who help you set goals or people that you want to be like. But don't compare yourself in a sense of like, am I am I as good as them? Am I as smart as them?
Yeah.
Because for all you know, they've been doing this since you were in elementary school. Like, you don't know what their journey's been, and no journey is going to be the same for two nurses. So yeah, you may have had people that you graduated with in your cohort, but now everything's different because some of them are going to continue their education immediately. Some of them are going to get really good on their unit. Some of them are on med surg. Some of them are ICU. I talked about a friend of mine who is graduating. She's never worked in nursing before, aside from clinicals, and she'll graduate with a master's degree. She already has a bachelor's in something unrelated. So she'll have a master's degree, and I have a bachelor's, but I have a lot more experience. It doesn't matter because we all have roles and we all have different paths that we're on. And so I think your path is going to be interesting and good. And just remember that it's your path and not somebody else's. It's not somebody else's to judge. It's not somebody else's to take away. And it's not somebody else's to validate. Like, that all has to come from you. So, wow, that was really philosophical, guys. That was pretty good, right?
This was a very good ending. I'm glad we talked about the struggles first, because then we could end on this, because I think a bit
it
weird.
Would just be a downer to be like, well, that's everything that sucks. Peace out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm an ICU nurse. And then I walk into work and feel like I don't know anything. See you next week.
But it's true. Like, every person that's ever worked in any hospital unit has always had a day one. They've always had that day where they were the new kid. And so I encourage everyone listening, regardless of your amount of time in the field, be kind to the people around you, because they might be scared shitless because maybe they didn't learn this in school. Maybe they are just panicked and having a brain fart right now. Maybe they have a potential to learn, but they just haven't been exposed yet. So be kind in your teaching, be kind in your working with your coworkers. Just, remember that we're all in a different place, and we just, blah, 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 blah. I could go on and on and on, but it sounds like you're learning really good things and that you're on a good path, a good direction. And now everybody can stop emailing me and asking me whether or not you've passed.
Yeah. The cat is out of the bag now. So then now they get to listen to us talk about all of these fun, whimsical adventures. I don't even know where I'm going to be a year from now. I don't know. It'll be really What if you have a Nostradamus listener who's like, oh, I bet they're going to end up here, whatever. And then you don't say anything. And then a year from now I end up there and you're like, well, user number 74865 pegged that
You predicted correctly back in the day. Yeah. I mean, maybe should I save all these emails now to see all right, everyone, email me your predictions for what the fuck Jillian's going to be doing in 12 months. And then we'll raffle off something. We'll figure it out when the time comes.
You know what? I'll buy somebody a nice tumbler.
Ooh, yeah.
That's what I'll do. I'll get somebody one of those nice, those big army canteens, that you could blow up and the water won't spill out.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the ones that are virtually indestructible. Yeah, so everybody go ahead and email nursinguncensoredpodcast@gmail.com with what you think Jillian will be doing in a year. And then come back in 12 months and we'll see if we have any winners. Jillian, you got to do some crazy shit to make sure this isn't just she'll be in the same place doing the same thing. Yeah,
I made no additional moves.
Which that would be okay too if you love it and you want to stay. No
I pull out my nursing badge and my one donate life pin is dusty with cobwebs around it. There's been nothing added to it.
Oh God, if only. All right. Well, this has been another episode. Is this our third or fourth episode together? I don't know.
I think it's
because we did
the going through nursing school, the 2 parts.
Oh yeah.
Pre-NCLEX. This is number 4.
Oh yeah, this is number 4. This is. And technically number 5, because we recorded an episode in there somewhere that I lost.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, maybe
I think that happened in my transition from like my old laptop to my new computer. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it coincided around then, but I still have hope that maybe I'll find it in like the recesses of my cloud storage, but I looked pretty thoroughly and I'm pretty fastidious at keeping shit organized normally, so I think it's gone. But
maybe it'll just be like a Walt Disney Vault situation where you just find it like 20 years from now and do a grand release.
That would be awesome. That would be great.
That's what I'm saying.
All right. Well, let's end it here. And then, I just triggered Alexa. Alexa, what's the temperature right now?
Right now, it's 53 degrees Fahrenheit.
Why do you sound fuzzy? It's 53 degrees in Iowa. That's pretty good. It's been cold as fuck here lately. So
yeah, we have no idea. The temperatures outside, much like my emotions, are unregulated and are not known
crazy
today.
Insane. Not you, not your emotions, just the
weather.
No,
they are.
Awesome. Well, we'll talk again soon, and hopefully by then we will have some more things to. I mean, we'll always have things to talk about. So, come back again, Jillian.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, it's a good time, and I'm sure I'll see you again soon, IRL.
More tacos.
More tacos. Always more tacos. All right. Happy nursing, everybody. Here at Nursing Uncensored, we may be, uncensored, but we're not unfiltered. Protected health information has been changed and concealed to comply with HIPAA. The things we talk about are from years of experience with thousands of patients, things we've read, stories we've heard. If you think we're talking about you, we're not. Also, we're real nurses here to provide helpful and accurate information, but don't take anything we say as fact without doing your own research. Refer to your state's Board of Nursing, Practice Acts, and your institution's policies and procedures if you have questions about your practice. Lastly, our very strong opinions are ours alone and do not reflect those of our employers, educational, or professional institutions. Thanks for listening, and happy nursing, folks.